Whether or not you should use RPE has long been debated. People often point out the flaws in its subjectivity. However, this is more of a feature rather than a bug of the system. The argument that it's not objective enough is rooted in misunderstandings of how we apply stress. Furthermore, it assumes that dose-response is a linear relationship. In this video, we're going to explore whether you should use RPE in your training and whether objectivity is really necessary to drive adaptations. Before we dive in, we should discuss the difference between precision and significance. Take these two examples. In example A, you've got a car traveling towards you at top speed. Someone on the other side of the road shouts, "There's a locomotive traveling towards you at 70 miles per hour, and if you don't move out the way quickly enough, then the impact is going to be fatal." In example B, the scenario is the same, but someone just screams, "Get out of the fucking way of the car." And if you're unlucky enough to be crossing the road with a neurotic from example A, you're likely to be plastered across the road, because by the time you figure out what's actually going on, it's too late. But it's far more effective. Why? Because example A focuses on precision and example B focuses on significance. The goal in this scenario isn't to have all the available information, it's to have enough so you can make the right decision. So how does this relate to RPE? RPE provides enough significant information so you can select the appropriate load that should go on the bar that day. It takes into account your readiness and allows you to adjust accordingly. And this encompasses the principle of auto-regulation. Yes, it's not perfectly accurate and people aren't always great at rating their RPEs. Nonetheless, it doesn't negate its usefulness. The point of training is to increase a stimulus over time to drive results, which isn't the same as putting a specific load on a bar at a specific time. So the obsession with precision in this case is largely unwarranted. And what is objectivity in a program anyway? Percentage-based training, velocity-based training, these tools are often for neurotics that romanticize precision. And don't get me wrong, it can work for people who really need those guardrails, but these methods often prey on people's insecurities, creating this illusion that objectivity is a necessity, which reduces athlete autonomy. And just because something provides a number or you do some fancy calculations doesn't mean it's truly objective. Technique changes, form breakdown, and readiness can skew the readings. So it might seem like this panacea, but not everything that glitters is gold. Percentages also fall victim to the same flaws. They're usually calculated off a max when you were peaked and off your tits on pre-workout. They don't account for the fact that since then you've sunk 20 pints over the weekend, your missus has broke up with you, and worst of all, you've left your headphones at home. So yes, you have this objective output, but it's still prone to error. Now let's talk about stress. There's this idea that the more accurate you are with your measurements, the more accurately we can apply stress. And this assumes that stress produces this linear response. Input A equals output B, which claims that after stress we recover, then supercompensate to prepare for future stresses. However, this research is over a century old. And essentially, this guy just tortured some rats in a lab and then just measured how they responded to that stress. And for some reason, this is the model that coaches are still using today. A contemporary view of stress sees it as the emergent result of complex interactions between biological, psychological, and sociological factors. It's not neatly localized to one system. All systems interact to anticipate and adapt from stresses. This means that just because we apply an objective measure of stress doesn't mean we can predict the output. Adaptation is more probabilistic than predictable. Yes, we can increase the odds, but using objectivity doesn't guarantee the outcome. Also, these measures or prescriptions capture a snapshot of someone's readiness, which may not reflect their current state. Just like the example we used earlier, where someone's max isn't truly representative of the load that they should lift today. You can think of it like a fog of war on a map in a video game. You start with a small portion of the map of the areas that you have explored. As you play, you unlock new skills and new areas. And if you were to use that initial map now, it wouldn't be representative of where you are or where you're going. I know this may seem hypocritical because I do own a velocity-based tracker and I do post about using training maxes. First of all, I haven't used the VBT in a while. I'm pretty sure it's just collecting dust somewhere. And yes, I use a blend of RPE and percentages within my programs. But this discussion isn't about whether these tools are bad. They can be useful in the right context. The point I'm trying to make is that our desire for quantifiable and objective measures is largely an illusion. And these tools shouldn't be viewed as binary, they're complementary. George Box famously quoted that all models are wrong, but some are useful. In training, we often romanticize objective metrics, percentages, bar speed, RPEs, until they become ends in themselves rather than tools just to guide decisions. The purpose of a program is to get stronger over time, and you can apply progressive overload without ever having to touch a VBT. Just like RPE, it's a tool, not a goal. When you focus too much on hitting a specific number, you lose sight of the bigger picture, driving adaptation over the long term. Also, when complexity rises, as it so often does with athletes, precision loses its meaning, because responses are non-linear and unpredictable. Writing tools off just because they're subjective, only to replace them with seemingly objective tools, is more virtue signaling rather than practical programming. So now that I've given you the red pill, what do we do next? As I said, these tools should be viewed complementarily. Percentages can give you a target, but it's best to aim low than adjust upwards. It's much easier to recover from a program that undershoots rather than overshoots consistently. And you can use RPE within the session to adjust the load accordingly. So when someone's having a good day, they can increase it, or if someone's feeling like shit, they can drop it down a little bit. And there's a lot of variation between these percentages. A single at 90% might be an RPE 6 for some people or an RPE 8 for others. Having that prescription and an RPE allows you to adjust your future percentage prescriptions, giving you a more accurate map to work off. And you can use VBT in these scenarios to judge whether your performance is actually reflective of your readiness state. For example, sometimes you feel very sluggish when you go into the gym, but once you start putting the weight on the bar, you see that your bar speeds are moving faster than normal. And this can give you an indication that you don't have to decrease the load, you can match it or maybe even increase it a little bit. Ultimately, your training philosophy should shape how these tools are used. All of these models are just incomplete maps that are waiting to be explored. The main takeaway from this is start with heuristics, embrace that they're inherently wrong, and use the program as a vehicle for discovery. You don't need the perfect plan with ultimate precision. You need a program that provides feedback and allows you to adjust and learn as you go along. If you like this video, you'll love my emails. Down below there'll be a link in the description to my newsletter where I'll give you practical tips weekly that you won't find on social media. Or if you prefer the YouTube format, then you're going to absolutely love this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.